Let's roll. Everybody dance with me.
Welcome to Read My
Come on,
Lips
Andrew.
Radio,
I know you
a
can
lively
dance.
hour
There he
of
goes.
unscripted conversations with savvy creatives. Producer and host, aka Radio Red, asks novelists, artists, photographers, designers, comedians, actors, musicians, composers, screenwriters, directors, and technology innovators about their creative passion, inspirational muses, and how they create. Ooh, how those lips can talk. Now, here's aka Radio Red.
Thank you to the wonderful voice who introduces me every Monday on my LinkedIn promo. I was channeling the mamas and the papas back in 1966, Monday. I try not to sing, it ruins the show. Welcome, everybody. Read My Lips, cool conversations with creatives. I'm aka Radio Red today, although I have other names and other personas, and my guests are going to call me Red, please, and thank you very much. I talk to creative people. They're not just singers and dancers and artists and photographers and chefs. They're real people. They have real lives. They have interesting careers, but they have created what they do along the way in many different ways. So I'm calling this in honor of one of my guests, and she knows who she is, the choreography of creativity. I have to pick a different word every week, and that's what I picked. So before I do my opening poem to introduce all of you, I want you all to make the shape of the letter L with your hands, please. The letter L, everybody hand up. There we go. And on the count of 3, at the same pace as I'm going to do it now, we're going to say hello, L, 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 just like that. 1, 2, 3. Hello, L, L, L. Jordan, would you write down they're tied for first place on the best synchronized, not swimming, synchronized Elling? Okay. Neco is thrilled. LLL is lovely, lanky Laura Legs, our most loyal listener. I met her at dance class in Whitestone, New York, many, many years ago, and we stayed friends. I've only seen the woman in person probably 6 times in my life, and she follows this show every Monday. And let's see, we're off the air at 6 p.m. Eastern. I will get an email from LLL, and she will tell me a little synopsis of you, Andrew, what you said, and Anne, and Neco, and Tracy. She listens and she uses the promo. So I'll get a book report. And she always loves the show, so don't worry. She'll call me beautiful, gorgeous lady of red. So it's a lot of fun. But I've been trying to get her to move to a place that starts with L, because Whitestone obviously doesn't. So I took a poll of all the L places in the country. And then one day, 2 years ago, I wanted to move. I was in Durham, North Carolina. And I looked at a map and I decided I want to move to London, but it was expensive and hot. But I looked at the map and I tilted my head. Andrew, I have a little bit of vertigo. I should tell Tracy that, a little bit of vertigo once in a while. And when I tilted my head, the N in London went upside down and I moved to Loudon, Tennessee instead of London. Okay, I told you I'm the Green Room Warm-Up Committee. And the yes, comedian too. So I tried to get LLL to move to Loudon. So far, no success, but we'll get her. So it'll be lovely, lanky Laura Legs, our most loyal listener in Loudon. There we go. Or maybe Louisiana. We'll do something. Anyway, this is the 23rd day of September. Can you believe the year is going so fast? It's the 266th day in 2024. We're in the Gregorian calendar, because when we had the Julian calendar, they skipped days. Neco, did you know that October 3rd was next to October 14th on the calendar, in the Julian calendar? And what did people do at birthdays for those 11 days? Nothing. Or they all had one giant big party. So Gregorian came along. I call him an early creative. And his mom said, Pope Gregory, do something. So he did. He changed the calendar. 99 days left. This is the 39th Monday, and I'm the only one who gives a crap about that. Sorry to use language. However, I want you to know that it's almost time for you to start thinking about how you're going to celebrate New Year's Eve, because 99 days is not a lot of time left. So, Andrew, I have a feeling you're going to be getting the still out, the whiskey still out the back of the old behind the barn, and
you don't know.
Okay, you and I will talk. I knew you. I pegged you, Andrew. I did. So you better start soon. And you look like you'd probably be making homemade Kahlua in a sink in the garage or in a jug or somewhere. It's time to start with the flavors. Tracy, I'm thinking you probably would like some kind of a punch, and you need to make sure that you buy everything early, because the store shelves will be empty. And Neco is probably going to get something online, and the shelves will be bare by October 31st, Halloween. There'll be nothing left for New Year's. So do your shopping early. Okay, everybody, I'm going to read our opening here. I obviously have a wonderful panel here today. So here we go. Welcome to Read My Lips, where creativity takes flight. Cool conversations with creatives, a round table of delight. You all have to be delightful. With host akaRadioRed, whose words, just flow on her Scarlett mic in the live streaming glow. Am I glowing yet, Tracy? On the choreography of creativity, today we will reveal how unique creatives, that's all of you, work, think, and speak for real. Okay. Now, when I call your name, wave. And if I say the name wrong, just correct me after. So, Anne Mracek, from attics, ATTICS, to inner child tales did dive. With each memory, her healing came alive. Composer and teacher, Anne's music takes flight. In mindfulness and dance, she shines her light. Anne, did you like that?
That's lovely. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I rent these poems out. I'll make a group raid afterwards. We'll talk. Okay, and then we have Andrew Kreig. It's Kreig, but it's Kreig. Okay, a voice for justice with a journalist's eye. From law to civil rights, his passions are soaring high. A Golden Gloves boxer and press club bar comedian too. Media, truth, and stories, Andrew does pursue. Andrew, oh, he liked it, I think. Good. Did I get a passing grade there? Thank
Right.
you. Oh,
Wonderful.
thank you. Good. Okay. Tracy Latz. She has so many letters after her name. We're just going to settle for MD right now. She helps us shift, turning a new page. Cell biologist, healer, and metaphysical sage. From Qigong to psychiatry, Tracy opens doors, guiding people to transform and explore life's cores. What'd you think? Oh, she liked it. Good. And Neco Turkienicz, I hope I got that right. I'm practicing. A storyteller with his camera's keen lens. From Israel to New York, his special craft transcends. Creating for businesses near and far with remote production, Neco has raised the bar. I hope you like that.
Love it.
Oh, he likes that. So gather around, global audience, dear, and lend us your eye and lend us your ear as we dive into creativity with visions clear. With me, akaRadioRed, the round table is set today. We hope to inspire you to live life large, love life, and play. So how'd I do, everybody? What'd you think?
Beautiful.
Very good.
Yeah.
Full disclaimer, I took all of your bios, so that's about 300 words a piece, that's 1,200 words, and asked my friend at ChatGPT to condense them into 4-line verses. Then I went back and I looked at your bios and I made sure that I was happy with what she selected and the rhymes. I changed a lot of things, Andrew. I edited yours 10 minutes before the show. And then I added the opening and the closing. So it's a combination of AI and me. And last I checked, I'm still human. So it's not all AI. I wanted you to know. So thank you very much. Let's go around the table and find out more about you all. And I'm going to start with Anne. Anne, I'm putting you on speaker view. I'm so happy to have you here. I met you and Tracy and Andrew at the National Publicity Summit, and I met Neco somewhere else. We'll talk about that later. So Anne, would you please give us a 3-minute condensation of everything you've ever done in your entire life in terms of creativity? Go. Welcome.
Okay.
Welcome,
well,
Anne.
I started out as a concert pianist, had my neck broken in a car crash, pivoted, became a composer, and have bachelor's and master's degrees in music composition. And I then fell on the ice, on black ice, and tore my left leg, was paralyzed, and in therapy for that became a belly dancer and had a 25-year career running my own dance company, Avla Rocks Belly Dance. And then my parents decided to move into assisted living, and I had to empty their home, which brought forth many childhood traumas that had been suppressed. And I just wrote my book that is being released today.
Congratulations.
You're the first to know. It is being uploaded to Amazon today, called Unpacking the Attic, A Path to Healing Your Inner Child, which I wrote in real time as I transitioned my parents into assisted living. So there's Anne in a nutshell.
There's Anne, the creative Anne. You've certainly been through a lot, through thick and thin, through health and trying to regain health. Very, very interesting. Thank you, Anne. And if I don't have the book already, I'd love the PDF. I'd love the ebook because I want to read it.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to Andrew Kreig. Andrew, welcome. I met you at the summit as well. I'm putting you on speaker view. We'd like to know more. Andrew, welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm a Washington, D.C. based commentator, attorney, journalist, author, and nonprofit executive. uh, with those varied careers, I've had to use some creativity to navigate the ups and downs. Part of that comes from my family background, which is born in Chicago, reared in New York City, but spent every summer in the mountains of Arkansas, real Judd Clampett country. And, no running water, dirt roads, and all of that stuff. And it reminded me a little bit, Red, of your new environs, but I'm sure they've got the running water,
We
the
do.
electricity, and also still the mountains around where you are. But the relevant point is that kind of diverse geographic background helped me in my career that began as a newspaper reporter and evolved as an attorney, magazine writer, author, and for 15 years, a high-tech executive with the Wireless Communications Association, helping bring the concept of wireless internet from dream to reality. And now it's back in Washington, D.C., to being a reporter again with the Justice Integrity Project that tries to monitor undercovered stories in Washington, the US, and around the world. But finally, here's a very important point. I am thrilled to be on this show. The listeners should know that this is a tough application process. And I think I needed a little help from our host and producer, because when you're trying to balance creativity with serious topics, it's easy to go wrong. And so this is a tough test. And I will say that my educational background includes law degrees from both Yale Law School, University of Chicago, history degree from Cornell. But this is a tough test to be here now. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Andrew, you are a charmer. Thank you very much. That was very sweet. Just full disclaimer for the audience, I use a form for my guests to fill out, and it's a 999 maximum character bio about their origin story, not a CV, not a list of everything they've ever done. And then the opening quote, which we'll get to. They pick a fictional quote from a movie or a TV show or a song lyric, and then 4 statements about their creativity. And my regular listeners, my ruggles, I call them, will know what I'm talking about toward the end of the show. About the middle, I'll pick some statements and they'll expand them or unpack them, as you say in your news world, Mr. Kreig. We're going to unpack the statements. So, yeah, it's a different game than the one you're used to, but most of my guests survive, and I'm glad you did too, Andrew. I'm really glad. We have a doctor in the house, so it's time for Tracy Latz. Tracy, welcome. I'm putting you on speaker view. Please fill in the blanks for us, Tracy.
Thank you, Red. I certainly feel your pain, Kreig, because yes, there was a lot of sending in things and then coming back close, no cigar. So it was fun, though. It was fun and helpful. So grew up in Eastern North Carolina, highly intuitive, very creative internal world. My father on his deathbed thought I was autistic as a child because I was so internal with being quiet and doing things and being creative. I loved animals, loved biology, loved nature, so pursued biology. That was my creativity. Shut down my intuition and knowingness inside because everyone said I was weird. So went on to medical school from there, not because I had planned to do it, but because the fella I was dating and ended up marrying signed me up without me knowing it to take the MCATs. And ended up taking the MCATs, did very well above the national average, had 5 days to study. So I went to med school and loved it. I enjoyed it. Thought I'd do all sorts of things. Opened up to my creativity to learning everything about the human body after learning everything about inside the cell and outside of the cell, which was like a universe. So thought I'd do anything except for surgery. Don't like standing that long. Or psychiatry. Ha ha ha. Ended up going into psychiatry because I finally realized that was the closest you got to the essence of a person or their soul. So that's what drew me to that. Did that for 4 years, standard psychiatry, shut down my intuition, but had a patient in front of me, acutely suicidal. I could not sort out what to do. She would not give me enough information to send her anywhere. So suddenly I got back into my intuition and heard very clearly, ask her this. And it was 4 phrases, like a poem. AI could have written it, I don't know. But that is what helped me understand how to help her, because I said, what would you say if I told you this? So that reopened my creativity in looking at a bigger world for helping people. And ended up going to an ancient mystery school, trained there, reconnected with nature, and ended up, through my reconnection in nature, creating a stone circle in my backyard. And also creativity, work with people, patients, metaphysics, teach, love everything. I see it as one big source of creation, and also teach intuitive art. I've written books, so I love writing. I have 2 more in my head dying to get out. And just, I love creating, and teach intuitive art, and wrote Bye Bye Self-Sabotage, Drop Your Baggage, Love Your Life.
Thank you, Tracy. Beyond impressive. Well, all of you are very interesting. See, this is what comes out when we approach the bio from the creativity side rather than how many jobs have you had and how many titles have you had. We learn more about each other. Neco, I did not meet Neco at the Publicity Summit. I was invited one day when my Wednesday Technology Revolution show was off, which is just for holidays or something. It was a day I wasn't. And I was invited to a networking meeting, and I was placed into a breakout room with, I think there were 5 of us, Neco. And Neco was one of the people I met. And I was so impressed with him, I invited him to come on the show, and here he is. So, yes, Neco, we are very interested in you because nobody here has met you before right now. So, why don't you take us through 3 minutes of your entire life, Neco? Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm honored to be here. So thank you so much for inviting me. So I'm a filmmaker. I'm originally from Brazil, and the creativity virus was in me from a very early age. And in high school I started with photography. But anyway, it really started seriously when I went to journalism school back in Brazil more than 40 years ago. And but I'm Jewish, and I was part of not but and I'm Jewish, and I was in a Jewish movement from when I was very little. And at age 21, I got married to the same woman I'm married today, 42 years, and we decided to move to Israel. And so I didn't finish university, and I moved to Israel. We wanted to live in a kibbutz. Don't know if you guys don't know what a kibbutz is. It's
We know.
Agricultural community, and I wanted to work the land, and that's what I did for almost more than 7 years. That's what I did. Tractors, working the land, but I got bored from that after about 7 years, and I went back to school at age 28 in Israel. I went to film school in Tel Aviv University, and I was so lucky to finish film school in the exact same year that cable television was starting in Israel. Until then, Israel had 2 TV channels. So I and my whole class were very lucky, and we all got employed. And I started working as an editor, a video editor in the sports channel in Israel. And I became also a director with time. And I worked as a freelance director and editor for 14 years in Israel, directed about 8 documentaries for television, until one fine day I was invited to be a creative director in an animation company in New York, out of the blue. The owner of the company went to school with me, and he invited me, and it was a good. I wasn't thinking of leaving Israel and moving to another place, but that happened. My family then agreed to come to the U.S. My two children were teenagers then. My wife is a Hebrew teacher, so there we came to New York. I worked in this animation company for a few years as a creative director, and later I became independent. I decided to start my own production company, and I became what I am today, which is a video alchemist. I work with businesses by like taking their raw materials, their ideas, their business goals, whatever they want, and I would say magically transmuting them into what I call visual gold, which is video content that helps them achieve their business goals. So I continue telling stories and doing documentaries. They're just short.
Neco, thank you. Absolutely fascinating. If we could put your lives end to end, we would have a major motion picture, a feature film with 4 characters who each needed a half hour to tell their story. Right, Andrew? And right, Tracy and Ann and Neco? Very interesting. I meet such interesting people by doing this show, and that's why I enjoy it so much, because I love your stories. I love to hear where you came from and what you did. You bring so much to my table by sharing who you are. So thank you all. Now let's get to the part that Andrew probably wasn't too keen on, the quotes. There we go. You're not first, Andrew. Don't worry. I'm going to go back to Ann. So Ann Mracek, I hope I said that right again. Ann picked a quote from a song by Johnny Mathis. I remember it well. It's from his and he's still alive, 1959 album Heavenly. Originally, it was sung or played by Errol Garner as a jazz standard instrumental written in 1954 by the pianist Errol Garner. And then the lyrics were reluctantly added by Johnny Burke. Johnny Mathis recorded it later on in 59. And I'm just going to hum a few bars. I try not to sing on the show. Da da dum, da 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 dum. I don't think I killed it. Walk my way. I'm going to cry in. And 1,000 violins begin to play, or it might be the sound of your hello, the music I hear. I get misty the moment you're near. Oh, Anne, how dare you do this to me? Anne, take 2 minutes and tell us what this quote means for your creativity. It's such a beautiful song, and I won't tell you where I was and with whom I was at 14 when I listened to this, or 12 or whatever. Go ahead, Anne, rescue me.
This is a song that I have always loved to perform. I love singing this piece. And I think it's because it goes to the core of my creative impulse. I compose almost daily for the piano. I have well, actually over now 200 piano solos up on my YouTube channel that I have performed myself, composed, and recorded. And it is the emotion from the heart that flows through my fingers. Mm-hmm. So when I sit at the piano, I get in gratitude. I put my fingers on the keys and I begin to hear the music. It just comes through. It's almost as if I'm downloading. And I feel like that song is brought forth from that same impetus of coming from a place of connected love. So that when you hear the voice of your soulmate, that is music, that is symphony, that is manifest as sound, as music, as vibration. And I feel like when I compose, that's what happens, is that I get into that connection with the universal mind or universal love, the great creator, however you want to phrase it. And I begin to hear that music flow through.
So that's lovely. Thank you very much. Some writers have called that the flow, and I have some quotes about that
Mhm.
later on. Thank you.
Mhm.
That was lovely. I do have great fond memories of. And by the way, Johnny Mathis, talk about creativity. I think he was offered the opportunity to be a Major League Baseball player or an Olympic runner. He was a sports guy. He was a
I
sportsman.
see.
And the question was, you're going to go in the music business, or you're going to follow the sports track literally. And he might have been a track runner. I don't remember. Anyway, and a funny story, I was working as a freelance stringer, they call it, for a Long Island newspaper. I think it was the Improper, Neco. You might remember that. I don't know. And I had a press pass to go to Woodbury Music Theater, which was a theater in the Round, Woodbury Music Fair. And I was asked not only to see Johnny, but to write an article. So his manager arranged for Johnny
Yes.
Mathis to call me on the phone. And this was before cell phones, kids.
Wow.
And I had a tape recorder set up and I recorded. We were on the phone for almost 2 hours and I recorded with his permission the call. And I'll never forget, it was early morning my time. He was in California and the phone rang and a voice said, "Hello, this is John Mathis. Is Bonnie there?" I thought I would die.
Did
Anyway,
you melt and cry?
you have no idea. You have no idea. And then I went to see the concert and I went backstage with my press pass and I cried. I met him in person, face to face, and I cried. And people were yelling out from the audience, "We love you, Johnny. We love you, Johnny." And it was magical. So that's my Johnny Mathis story. And the article I think was back page cover, and it was a great article. I still have it somewhere. Okay, Andrew Kreig. Andrew has picked a quote from Higgins, played by Cliff Robertson, wonderful actor. The movie is 3 Days of the Condor, 1975 political thriller, screenplay based on a book by Andrew's colleague, James Grady. Maybe we'll get a little story about that. And the quote was, "How do you know," replied Higgins, when fellow CIA employee Joe Turner, Robert Redford, assured him the New York Times would publish his whistleblower story. Oh my, no politics here, Mr. Kreig. Go ahead, tell us, what does this have to do with you? We can't guess. Go ahead.
Well, without politics, because I'm only following directives here. What this means is much of what I do 7 days a week is try to pick the most important and interesting stories for the Justice Integrity Project website, which is a news magazine of underreported but seemingly important stories. At least I think they're important. And to set the scene a little bit, you're looking at me from my office, which is on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. 1 block that way is FBI headquarters, and that's right across the street from Justice Department headquarters. And many of the stories that I focus on have to do with the intersection of law and everyday life for people around the country, around the world. So sometimes we're thinking maybe they're doing a good job over there at the FBI, maybe not. But the question becomes, well, if we think we've got some important story, why aren't other people publishing it? And if we even go to other people with the facts, would they publish it? So that's kind of the big picture behind that quote and why it's meaningful to me and why it requires a certain creativity almost every day to try to make these decisions. I will have to say that Jim Grady, who wrote 3 Days of the Condor, he might be mildly amused if he thought that I was calling him a colleague because he's up here somewhere and I'm over here. But we do gather usually twice a year at a great event in Washington run by investigative reporter Dan Montea. It's called the Authors Dinner. And it's where published authors, book authors, and screenwriters get together twice a year to brag, drink,
In that order.
and share conviviality And so that's where I know him from. And of course, he's a great and respected leader, and the rest of us are uh, trying to uh, pick up some of the glow, I guess.
Okay. Be nice to yourself, Andrew. You're in good company. Very, very interesting. Well, I like the question, how do you know? Because isn't that a question that anybody could beg of us? How do I know that I was going to be decent or good or great or whatever as a host on a radio show, as a creator of a format, of a concept? How did Anne know that she was going to be a good composer? How did Tracy know she was going to be good at helping people solve their demons, if you will? How did Neco know that people were going to like him enough to invite him to be an animation editor and he would be successful in his own company? How did you know? So that's a very interesting question, Andrew. How do you know? And I think the answer is on my show a couple of years ago, a female guest, a woman, I remember her, said, creativity is courageous. It's courage. Courageous creativity. And somebody else said it's curiosity. Curious creativity. We ask questions. We have the question mark. And we can add to that your question from 3 Days of the Condor, Andrew. How do you know? Thank you, Andrew. That was good. See, you didn't know it would have such a ripple effect there. There you go. Tracy, Dr. Latz has picked a quote from another song here, Pure Imagination. Who doesn't love that? Sung by Willy Wonka, played by Gene Wilder. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I'm Ready for Chocolate, 1971 film. And the song was written by British composers Leslie Briskus and Anthony Newley for the movie, sung by Gene Wilder, who played Willy Wonka. Briskus stated that the song was written over the phone in one day. The song has a written introduction. I'm going to stop there. And it's been covered and remixed by thousands of people. There is no life I know to compare with pure imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to be. Oh, deep. Tracy, go.
Absolutely.
2 minutes. What does this mean
Absolutely.
to you? Go ahead.
This means everything to me because as a child, I was quiet because of pure imagination. My inner world was so much greater than anything I was experiencing in my outer world. Also, what limits people is when they limit their imagination. And so that's why I work with people to get out of their own way, which is self-sabotage. Drop it, people, drop it, and give people tools to do that. Creativity is inspired through our imagination, and from there, the impulse of it goes out and creates in the world. And yes, it takes curiosity. Yes, it takes courage, because there were times when I was afraid to speak up because I was afraid that the medical board would eat me. How dare you work with people, and bring in mindfulness? Now everyone's like, mindfulness, that should be part of everything we do. But when I was doing it, it was sort of like, are you sure? To call it something else. And now we know, even cells, modern physics, metaphysics, that one atom is 94 to 96% space and only 4 to 6% physicality. And now what we know is what seems to direct how that manifests has to do with the impulse of our own consciousness, our own imagination. And that has a powerful effect on our physical body as well as everything we create in the world. Pure imagination. I'm all about magic and imagination and making that live in your life. Because when you lose that, you lose the joie de vivre. You lose the joy, the passion, the thing that makes getting up out of bed worthwhile every day. So that's what mine
Thank you. The
quote's about.
joie de vivre of imagination, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Lovely quote. Neco has picked a quote from a very famous, one of the most famous iconic movies, Casablanca, 1942, American romantic drama film. And this will be attributed to the character American expatriate Rick Blaine, played by who else? Humphrey Bogart, known as Bogey. The quote is the last line of the film. Rick and Captain Louis Renault, played by Claude Rains, long ago and far away, walk across the tarmac of the aerodrome away from the camera, and Bogey says this to the unscrupulous Vichy prefect of police, who goes the way the wind blows. And here is the quote. I'm going to say Lewis. Lewis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And he probably said it with all kinds of vitriol and sarcasm. Neco, how'd you pick this one? Go ahead.
Oh, and they disappear into the fog. And well, I picked this quote first of all because Casablanca is the classic movie that inspired, of course, not only myself as a filmmaker, but I think generations of filmmakers. Because not only the innovation and the visuals and the story, everything comes together, and this is storytelling. And why so that it was always an inspiration for me. And I went back, I even did some when I was starting my career, I did some exercises like based on and detective stories, and the clearly inspired by that. But I think the significance for me of this is the beginning of a big of a great friendship, is this is storytelling for me, because the story doesn't end. I know there's vitriol there, but I'm putting that aside. But for me, it symbolizes the fact that a story is always the beginning of a beautiful friendship, because that's the way you connect to people. And that's what that's what I like to do, like to tell stories, to help people connect to whatever is being said, to the story. So that's where it comes from.
Lovely. Thank you. It is one of the classics, along with Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind. On a handful, the ones that everybody for generations will remember the names, even if they haven't seen them.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all for the quotes. They were wonderful, sparking in. Now, Andrew, now you see why I asked for the quote, because it gets our juices flowing and all that. Was it worth it? Of course it was. Thank you, Red.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Thank
See
you.
that it's a start of a beautiful friendship, Andrew. We'll talk. Okay, so now I'm going to read one creativity statement from each of you. Let's keep it. We got 17 minutes left. We got a lot to cover here, and I have a couple of famous birthdays today, so we'll talk about it. Not mine, famous people, more famous people. So Anne has said the following, and this is interesting. She says, when I have a purpose or teaching for higher good, I enlist all my skills as a musician, a writer, a painter to express that ideal. I wanted to teach my daughter concepts of, Tracy, you're going to love this, mindfulness and compassion from an early age, and began telling bedtime stories about Albert Raccoon, who was adopted by Mother Skunk in an enchanted forest. When my granddaughter was 4, my daughter said, ask Grammy about Albert. And I began writing the stories, recording each chapter, drawing on my experience as a cartoon voiceover artist. She still does more, and come on, to create voices. I mailed the CDs to my granddaughter when she was 6. She said, Grammy, you need to share these stories with children, all children around the world. I probably have told a lot of it, but Anne, take 2 minutes and fill in the blanks, please.
Yes. So I now have my own YouTube channel called My Best Friends Live in the Woods. And I create the voices for each character. I tell the stories, and I also compose all the background music for each chapter. I paint illustrations and draw coloring book pages for each chapter. And this way, the concepts are not like do this, do that. The children are learning through the example of the interaction of these little beloved animals, of these characters. And then after each story, there is a discussion and questions that encourages meaningful conversation and has questions for them to ask themselves so that they can relate these concepts to their own lives. Like, is there someone you need to forgive? Is bullying ever acceptable? How can you live in community and include more people within your inner circle? How do you show gratitude to people who help you? These are examples. So that's one of my passions. It's a novel now that has 85 chapters and is ongoing. And I just produce each chapter as an ongoing series, as a TV show, basically, on YouTube. So it is free and available to all the children of the world.
That is lovely. That is really lovely. How old is your granddaughter now?
Well, now she's 9.
Oh, woman of the
Yes.
world. There we go.
And she is a very big girl, she will tell you.
She had a great idea. Thank you, Anne. I'm going to move on. Andrew, I'm looking at your statement number 3. I like this. You say, reflecting on my life's serious setbacks, creative solutions have often helped me overcome stark setbacks. Example, Yale Law rejected Andrew's application as inadequate after he had made the private decision on ethical grounds to not seek recommendations from a lawyer, or because he was a newspaper reporter covering the Connecticut court. So here's what Andrew did for creativity. I obtained a different job covering courts as the Hartford Courant's first ever NBA reporter, where I covered the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks games at courtside. Andrew, this was great. Can you expand this a little bit for us, please? Bravo.
Well, exactly. I'm glad you like that one. I successfully reapplied to Yale later with a whole retinue of former judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys writing recommendations. And it got me in and changed my life and career. And in gratitude, I support the law school's activities like fundraising and so forth. And I occasionally share my admissions story there and elsewhere. Now that I'm old, I'd rather help other people than act like I got in first time the easy way. But sometimes people say, you can't reapply to law school after they turn you down. And I respond, why not?
Why not?
Is there a law against it?
So how do you know? Right? How do you know? Very interesting, Andrew. That was quite a story. I want you to just give me one sentence on how you studied stand-up comedy, or give me 2 or 3 sentences because I have to move on, but it was in your notes. So when did you do that?
Well, it actually I had a radio show called Washington Update for 7 years. I co-hosted it, and I invited a comedian, Larry Wilde, and the chance that you might ask about that. I've got his book, Great Comedians Talk About Comedy, Larry Wilde.
Cool.
And he was a great comedian. He interviewed about 17 of the greats, Jack Benny, all kinds of people, Woody Allen. And I thought this is the greatest antidote to my normally kind of ponderous stuff that people don't want to hear about. And I started actively studying the techniques of comedy. One quick thing, I've got friends who do this too, investigative reporters, and we found these these forbidden Friars Club roasts from the 1950s, where the famous household comedians used the dirtiest and funny jokes against each other. And I must say, it's going to spice up my act a little bit, both personally and otherwise. But my longtime sweetheart says, well, if you're thinking of a new career, you got a problem. You're not.
Andrew, thank you for indulging me. I appreciate that. Tracy, I'm going to your intuitive artwork statement here. I'll just read a little bit. You say using pastel chalks and done with your eyes closed. Favorite colors varied, often greens, blues, gold, white, and purple with orange. Subjects include people or animals here or gone. Places, concepts, or issues that you have a question about. Inspiration is a desire to understand the energy of a situation. So just briefly tell us about this, please, Tracy Latz.
I love this modality because it's a way to tap into your own knowing, Kreig, to sort of really understand what it is your own self wants you to know where someone else does. And these are intuitive arts. Back here, this was a meditation on the divine female. This was a meditation on a healing process called Yandi. And I teach classes and I love it because it is done with eyes closed. We wear actual coverings for the eyes that blind you, essentially not literally blind you, but make it where you can't see it. And you connect with the energy. You don't draw with it straight up and down. You come in and draw not like a pencil, but on the side. So the whole thing is like this. You have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea what colors you're picking up.
Mm.
And what comes out of it is fascinating, and it keeps changing over time. So I love teaching kids, adults. I taught in Lebanon with my co-author, Dr. Marion Ross, and we ended up putting together a book called The Mystical World of Ventura Art, Connecting with Spirit with Intuitive Art. And what that book does is it doesn't teach you how to do it, because I thought the worst thing I could do is try and tell someone how to do it and it not work in that way, because we work with people to let go of anger, guilt, shame that blocks that creative flow. Because if it blocks your heart, you will not pull that through and just release it on the paper. And the book shows you what it can be used for. And I've used it for people connecting with loved ones, children, people who have passed away, pets, that's fun, living or deceased, or places. And I had one person who was like, let's go to places who are haunted and connect and see what comes through. I was like, okay, sign me up for your podcast. Let's do it. So you can connect with higher energies or source, whatever you want. And it's just loads of fun, and it keeps giving you info. So it's great.
Thank you. Very interesting. I do acrylic paint pouring, and I don't have any expectations when I pour the colors. And you don't use brushes; you use balloons filled with water and make flowers. And you tilt the paint, you tilt the canvas, and you don't know what's going to come out. And I have had elephants marching across the page. I have had toward the end of what we thought was the end of COVID a couple of years ago, there were Broadway dancers on a stage on one of my paintings. I didn't invite them there; they just showed up. It was a stage with characters, something happening. Elephants in the forest. I never know. So there's this almost spiritual, I'm manipulating the canvas. Anyway, I want to get to Neco's. Thank you, Tracy. That was very interesting. Neco, I'm combining two statements from you. You mentioned one, but I'd like you to talk about it. We have just a few minutes left. You say, I'm creative because I have no other choice. I get bored otherwise. I like that. And number two, you say, creativity is listening to my heart and not looking always for the easier or shorter path. So, Neco, could you condense that into 2.5 minutes for me, please? Go ahead.
Sure, sure. I really have no other choice. I am creativity comes with curiosity. I am super curious. I get bored easily, and I'm always I don't like to repeat things. I don't like to take the same road. I will always try to take a different road even if it's to the same place. So for me, creativity is intrinsically connected to this, like wanting to do something new with something old, or wanting to learn. So that's my essence is why oh, what is this, like a 3-year-old, okay, but a little bit more, you know. My grandson, who is 2.5, inspires me, because he's always asking, what is this, grandpa, what is this? And that's what I still do at 63. So that's the source of my creativity.
What is this? What is this? Those questions.
Yes.
Andrew, you want to say something?
Yes, for about 20 seconds.
Go ahead.
The elephants and painting. I want to show the group my one painting of my life matched with the one poem. And here's the painting. And the poem is, the guinea pig is the king of beasts. Nobly on a red carrot he eats. And after doing this, which I recommend to everybody, I realized that I'm not a poet. I'm not a painter, but everyone should do something like that to see how hard it is and appreciate those who actually do it well.
Oh,
well said and lovely. And I have a
Yes.
quote from the character Rapunzel, voiced by Mandy Moore in the movie Tangled 2010, 3D
right.
computer animated. And she said, the character said, venture outside your comfort zone. The rewards are worth it.
Yes,
And
they are.
Glinda, the Good Witch of the North in Wizard of Oz, said, you had the power all along, my dear. And one quote for you, Tracy. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, I mispronounced that, 1990 book started the popular conversation about the phenomenon of flow state, a state of mind in which people can focus their brain, shut out distractions, and become much more productive. Okay, I've got 4 minutes and I want to finish with some interesting, I think, some music history for all of you. Anybody remember Honeycomb, Won't You Be My Baby?
yeah.
Jimmy Rogers, the pop singer, not the country music guy. This one spelled it MMIE, hit #1 in 1957 on this day, September 23rd. It was one of the few non-Elvis hits in 1957. Good for him. In the same day, Buddy Holly's group, the Crickets, hit #1. Well, how many #1s were there? With That'll Be the Day. And the title came from a John Wayne movie, a line in the movie The Searchers. I didn't know that. On this day in 1967, The Doors released People Are Strange. I'm trying not to sing. It's just getting away from me. In 1982, Brenda Lee was inducted in the Georgia Hall of Fame. I know, rocking around. Leave that alone. In 1998, Elvis was rejected by the Grand Ole Opry, I want you to know. And after he died, they had second thoughts and they inducted him into Nashville's Country Music Hall of Fame posthumously. There you go. And that's the music. Oh, and also after a Demi Lovato concert in 2011, Justin Bieber rented the 20,000 seat Staples Center to show girlfriend Selena Gomez the movie Titanic in a private showing. Who do you know who? Never mind. Okay. Celebrities. Today is Julio Iglesias is 81 today. Can you believe that? His full name is Julio Jose Iglesias de la Cueva. He is the most commercially successful Spanish singer in the world. He has only sold 150 million copies in 14 languages. You go, Julio. Bruce Springsteen is 75 today. The boss. What can I tell you? Born to Run. Jason Alexander from Seinfeld and everything else is 65 today. And Skylar Astin, you never heard of him, but he played on So Help Me Todd, which was a TV show that was short-lived, a detective lawyer show called So Help Me Todd. And Marcia Gay Harden was the star, and he played her detective son who lost his license. It was weird. In memoriam, born today, John Coltrane lived to the age of 40. Ray Charles, born today, lived to 73. And Mickey Rooney lived to 93. Social media, real quick here. I've got a minute and a half. On YouTube, Cutie the Bunny. She's an avatar, but a real person, is 21 today. Why am I telling you that? Because she has 1.6 million subscribers. Also on YouTube, Sonic David. He had 3.8, are you sitting down, Andrew? 3.8 billion views of some of his content. Sonic the Hedgehog. He does videos of that.
Gosh.
He's 19 years old. On TikTok, Sinetta Mateo is 22. He has 3.7 million followers on TikTok and 2.3 million on Insta. And on Insta, Jordan, Jordyn Woods, 27. It's a she. She has 12 million followers for social outings, and she has different fashion looks, and she's a friend of Kylie Jenner's. Okay, today is National Festival Elvis Pork Crawl. Go look it up. It's Apple Cider Vinegar Day, Baker Day, Checkers Day, Dogs in Politics Day. That's for you, Andrew. Great American Pot Pie Day. I think I'll have one. Snack Stick Day. That's Sausage Seed Gathering, and it's Ontario Garlic Week. Do not ask, but it sounds good. And Reflexology Week. And let's see. Okay, I have to close. So I want to thank you all. Don't go away. We'll talk after because I have some gifts for all of you, parting gifts, some video and audio and all of that, and pictures. This is the month of Footy Colors, Happy Cats, Guide Dogs, Service Dogs, Pet Insurance, Save a Tiger, especially Neco Save a Tiger, National Sewing Month, Save Your Photo, Self-Improvement Month. Okay, in 2014, I closed my show with the top 10 tips for women. This is for everybody. And the #1 tip was aspire to be Barbie. The biatch has everything. And I saved those notes. So here's today's closing, and join me in a second here. Life is short. Break the rules. We all have, haven't we, all of us? Forgive quickly? Nah. Kiss slowly? Yeah. Love truly? Laugh uncontrollably. Laugh with me. 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, Jordan, that was the best laugh I've ever heard on the show. And never, ever regret anything that made you smile. Final closing. Work like you don't need the money because you're the only one who really does. Dance like no one's watching. When I taught disco in high heels on a Formica tabletop in a cafeteria in Eugene, Oregon, I didn't fall and everybody watched. Please, seriously. Sing like nobody's listening. I try. And love like you've never been hurt because we all have. Let your heart regrow, regenerate. Imagine loving again. Money talks, chocolate sings. And last but not least, I stole this line years ago. Thank you for turning me on. Radio Red says, signing off. Don't go away, guest. Jordan, are